my God. It's embarrassing. If we are going to be together, she have to wear her wig. She's not gonna go with her short hair.
I'm hurt, and now I feel ugly, and I feel unwanted and unloved.
You have to be wearing your wig when we are meeting my friends or meeting people, okay?
Daniel was talking to another girl on social media. At the same time, he was talking to me. Be honest, because I will walk out if you're not.
Oh, wow. That look on her face didn't come from surprise. It came from recognition. Like her body already knew the rules of this relationship before her mouth caught up. 1 second, she's vulnerable, raw, exposing herself in a way most people wouldn't even dare do alone in a mirror. And the next second, he says 5 words that flatten her spirit in front of the camera. Not because she didn't expect rejection, but because she hoped, naively, maybe. For once, it might be different. For once, maybe someone would see her without the packaging and still want to stay. Welcome to TLC Drama File Us. I'm Olavia, and today we're unpacking what happens when someone's love comes with a dress code. If you've ever been told to shrink yourself just to be loved louder, hit that subscribe button and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this one's not just messy, it's personal. She didn't flinch because she was shocked. She flinched because he looked at her like a stranger. That's what lands hardest. Not the words, but the way he barely blinked before delivering them like a rule she should have already memorized. He wasn't surprised. He wasn't horrified. He was inconvenienced, as if seeing her real scalp, her real self, her sweat, her pain was bad timing for his public plans. And somehow that registers louder than any insult. Lisa tried to play it cool, tried to act like she didn't care, tried to laugh it off, but her whole posture sagged. Her eyes scanned his face like a student waiting for a grade. And what she got wasn't even an F. It was a reminder that he only signs the permission slip when she plays her part. The wig wasn't just hair. It was costume, contract, and currency, all rolled into one. And now that she'd broken the unspoken terms, he had to decide if she was still worth standing beside. And if you think this was about a hairstyle, keep watching, because what Lisa does next quietly proves how long she's been trained to choose performance over pain. Her shame was not new. It was trained. The first time Lisa hid something from Daniel, it wasn't her hair. It was her truth. Not a lie exactly, but a version. Trimmed, softened, made easier to digest. Because she knew early on that comfort mattered more than clarity in this equation. She didn't tell him she had been with women for most of her adult life. She told him she had one relationship, and even that was framed like a misstep, not a chapter. That's how far she was willing to bend before the visa talk even began. And he didn't ask questions. He didn't push. He accepted the version that kept him in position. Which might sound like love if you've never had to edit yourself to stay lovable. But for anyone who has, it looks like a trap disguised as romance. She was already managing his perception before he even saw her full story. And the question no one likes asking is this. Did he know exactly what he was doing? Or did he simply notice how far she was willing to shrink and decide it was easier to keep her small? Because not all manipulation looks like a villain twirling a mustache. Sometimes it looks like a man saying thank you when you make yourself more convenient, then waiting quietly to see if you'll keep doing it. Lisa didn't start with the wig. She started with silence, a choice to minimize herself in exchange for attention. And once that worked, she kept feeding the pattern. Tell the uncle only part of the truth. Gloss over the past. Perform modesty. Don't ruffle feathers. If you keep your story neat and sweet, maybe they'll let you stay. The thing is, Daniel didn't need to issue ultimatums right away. He didn't have to threaten or demand. Lisa was already doing the math, already trading authenticity for approval, already apologizing for anything that might interrupt the fantasy. That parade? The fireworks, the performance, the glittering distraction from her own unease? It felt like a reward. But a reward for what? Her love? Or her silence? Because no one throws you a parade for being yourself. They throw you a parade when you play your part well. And the more you watch, the more it becomes clear he didn't break her boundaries. He waited for her to dismantle them herself. The wig was not the first disguise. When Daniel planned that parade, with dancers, music, and full public theatrics, Lisa looked like she wanted to believe she was the queen of his world. But Faith, watching from across the screen, saw something else entirely. Her mom was grinning like a teenager at prom, caught up in the confetti, but Faith's face didn't move. She wasn't impressed. She was confused. And when she asked the question, how does he afford a parade when you're the one sending him money? You could feel the balloon start to deflate, not just in the scene, but in Lisa's chest. Because even she knew that math didn't add up. She was praising his generosity with funds she provided, gasping at the spectacle she unintentionally paid for. And the worst part? She still called it romantic. Effort, real effort, usually shows up in quiet ways, showing up when it's inconvenient, listening when there's no payoff, offering comfort when it doesn't make you look good. This wasn't that. This was noise, distraction, grandiosity masking something hollow underneath. If love was growing, why was she still hiding key parts of herself? Why was she still nervous around his family, around his questions, around his expectations? Why was she still playing a role? You start to notice a pattern. The bigger the gesture, the shakier the ground. When questions rise, Daniel brings out sparkle. When she doubts, he floods the stage. And Lisa, overwhelmed and tired, lets the light show blind her long enough to forget the thing that keeps clawing at her in the quiet moments. Why is there always money floating nearby when he says the word love? Why is her thank you always louder than his apology? Why is she so scared of what happens if she stops saying yes? And if you think the parade proved his love, look again. It didn't reflect how he felt about her. It reflected what he thought she needed to see. The parade celebrated her wallet more than her presence. When Daniel's friends sat across from Lisa and started talking, they weren't cautious or calculating. They were proud. Too proud. They didn't mention loyalty or kindness or connection. They mentioned change. Not in him emotionally, but in him materially. They said she transformed his life, that he used to have torn shoes, that he only had one pair, that he looked different now because of her. That's the part they chose to highlight, not the relationship, not the bond, not even a cheap line about happiness. Just upgrades. Fabric. Shoes. The shell of a better life. And Lisa smiled through it, but the corners of her eyes didn't move. Something had shifted. For the first time in a while, she wasn't absorbing praise. She was decoding it. Because if someone loves you for who you are, their friends don't immediately bring up what you've done for him. They don't lead with your financial impact. And they definitely don't describe a romantic partner the way you'd describe a sponsor. This wasn't about love. It was about logistics. Lisa said she worked 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. Her words. On camera. But when she said it, it wasn't a complaint. It was an explanation, a pre-apology, as if she needed to justify the emotional return she expected in exchange for her labor, as if asking for honesty was only allowed if she first reminded them how exhausted she was. Then came the part that said more than anyone realized. Daniel didn't deny anything they said. He added to it. He said he didn't know where he'd be without her. He agreed that her help had changed his whole situation. But not once did he interrupt to say he loved her. He let the transaction sit in the air and left it uncorrected. And if you're starting to feel like something isn't adding up, you're not alone. Because the more Lisa listened, the less she believed the show she thought she was starring in. She did not hear love. She heard supply. The screenshots didn't scream. They whispered. Quiet little timestamps, matching phrases. A sense of déjà vu that didn't feel romantic, it felt recycled. And Lisa, already dizzy from all the second guessing, saw her own words mirrored in someone else's messages. A woman she had never met, but who had the same story, the same lines, the same baby I love you messages, right down to the emojis. And instead of storming out, instead of flipping the table, Lisa did something more telling. She paused. She looked for a reason to doubt the evidence, not the man. That hesitation says everything. Because it wasn't just about what Daniel did, it was about what she would have to face if it was true. That she'd been conned while still trying to believe she was chosen. When she brought it up, Daniel didn't get angry. He got slippery. He smiled that nervous half-smile people do when their brain is building the next line instead of answering the last one. He said it was nothing. He said she was overreacting. He said there were lots of people on social media. He didn't say why the other woman had the same screenshots. He didn't say why Lisa wasn't told about it first. He laughed softly, looked down, and threw out vague comfort instead of clean truth. And Lisa, watching him squirm but not explain, felt the fog in her brain thicken. Not because she didn't see the signs, but because clarity hurts more than confusion when love is still on the table. This is where the danger of repeated reassurances kicks in. When someone says the same vague comfort again and again, your brain starts treating it like proof. Not because the words are strong, but because they're familiar. And that's how doubt gets drowned in routine. He said he loved her. He said she was the only one. He said meeting his family meant she was special. But when she asked direct questions, his answers wandered, looped, blurred. The shape of a yes, the texture of a maybe, the weight of a no. And before the friends said anything, before the tell-all unraveled, before the wig even came off, one woman had already tried to warn her, but the first voice Lisa trusted was the one she ignored. The wig didn't return because her head stopped hurting. It returned because her spirit did. Quietly. Reluctantly. With a kind of defeat that didn't need words. She put it back on before they left the hotel, and just like that, Daniel's mood shifted. His body softened. His face relaxed. The version of her he approved of had reappeared, and the friction faded. That's the part that chills you. Not the demand, but the reward. The way his affection snapped back into place like it had been waiting behind glass. And Lisa, aching and tired, noticed it too. She said it was horrible to wear it again, and you could tell she meant every word. But she still did it. Because the alternative wasn't pain, it was rejection. Daniel didn't scream or threaten. He just said they wouldn't go out if she didn't wear it. He framed it as a preference, a boundary, a respect thing. But whose respect, really? Because she wasn't hurting anyone with her natural hair. She wasn't breaking a social contract. She was breaking his image. And that, apparently, was the only thing that crossed a line. When he said, "You have to wear your wig when we are seeing my friends or family," it wasn't a request. It was a rule. And rules like that don't land unless one person believes their presence is conditional. To be fair, yes, some cultures value public presentation. Appearances matter, expectations exist. But this didn't feel like shared cultural pride. It felt like control dressed as concern. Lisa's health didn't sway him. Her tears didn't shake him. But the wig? That fixed everything. It was the ticket back into his approval. Back into his affection. Back into the illusion of romance. And the cruel part is, Lisa knew exactly what was happening. She said she hoped he'd touch her hair, kiss her forehead, say she looked beautiful without it. Instead, he looked embarrassed, told her she looked older, and made it clear she was only welcome outside if she wore the mask he preferred. And if you're wondering how much love depends on obedience, ask yourself this. When was the last time he made himself uncomfortable for her? The wig came back, but something else quietly left. Lisa said it herself. With no hint of pride, she works 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. Not once a month. Not during a crisis. Every day. That's not a lifestyle. That's a slow erosion. And the way she said it on camera wasn't to brag or seek sympathy. It was to justify why she deserved honesty. She wasn't asking for affection anymore. She was asking for transparency, like someone finally tired of paying full price for something that keeps arriving broken. Her voice didn't crack, but her eyes gave up. That kind of exhaustion doesn't come from labor alone. It comes from labor that goes unnoticed, from bending, sacrificing, giving, and still having to ask for the bare minimum in return. She sends money. He plans parades. She sacrifices sleep. He curates appearances. She breaks her back. He breaks into a smile when she obeys. And still, the relationship keeps being framed like love. But is it? Or is it maintenance? Because if one person holds the power to bring the other to a better life, but still feels small, what does that say about who's really in charge? Lisa could end it. She could revoke the promise of the visa. But the way Daniel controls emotional airspace, when he gives warmth, when he withholds praise, when he flirts just enough to reset the fantasy, that's the kind of control that doesn't need documents. That's emotional gravity. That's survival strategy. So who's more afraid of loss here? The man in Nigeria who sees the gateway to the American dream? Or the woman in America who believes that losing this relationship might mean losing her last chance to be adored? And when sacrifice becomes the standard, when draining your own tank becomes the price of staying close, who decides where the line is? Because once giving becomes a condition for staying wanted, the one giving the most can still feel like they have the least power. Power does not always feel like power when you still want approval. Lisa finally asked the questions out loud, the ones she'd been holding in since the screenshots, since the parade, since that first pit in her stomach whispered that something was off. She asked Daniel directly about the other women, about his past, about the timing that kept shifting depending on which version he was telling. And instead of answering, he flinched. Not with guilt, but with wounded pride. He didn't explain. He didn't apologize. He turned the spotlight around, made himself the injured party. He said she picked him up from the gutter, that she clothed him, fed him, as if the very act of surviving off her effort should silence her suspicion, as if gratitude was a trade for truth. She didn't push back. Not really. She softened. Again, because even in confrontation, she's managing his feelings first. She tiptoes around his dignity even while dragging her own across the floor. That's the reversal. She brings evidence, and he brings emotion, and somehow he ends up needing comfort. But being poor is not a character certificate. Being helped is not a license to manipulate. And accepting support doesn't make you untouchable. That's not love. That's immunity dressed as devotion. Then there's the friends, sitting right there, shifting, smirking. Awkward laughter spilling out like they'd been caught rehearsing the same line too many times. When Lisa pressed them, they didn't lie smoothly. They squirmed. They dodged. They giggled. Not because it was funny, but because they knew they couldn't say what she was hoping to hear. Not honestly. Their silence didn't protect love. It protected strategy. And Daniel, watching them fumble, didn't stop them. He let the deflection play out. Let the discomfort hang. Let her twist. No one clarified timelines. No one addressed the overlap. No one admitted to anything real. She accepted scraps, because scraps were all she had left that didn't shatter the illusion entirely. And if you're still wondering whether she got any answers, watch closer. Because Lisa didn't get clarity. She got performance. And she mistook silence for honesty. She asked for truth and received posture. There's a different kind of silence that follows someone around when they're trying not to know something. It's not denial exactly. It's survival. Lisa sits with her thoughts more in this part of the story. Not because the noise has stopped, but because something inside her is louder now. A voice that's been whispering under every compliment, every parade, every I love you that arrived just in time to cover a bruise. The voice that says, this looks familiar. And the cruelest part? She's not wrong. This isn't her first time shrinking to be kept. It's not the first time she's decided that hiding her truth is better than scaring someone away. But this time, she's not hiding for safety. She's hiding to stay wanted. She kept her past quiet because she feared it would make her less lovable. He kept his intentions quiet because they made him more powerful. Both of them are withholding. But only one is losing sleep over it. Lisa stares at him, listens to him, tries to find something, anything in his face that feels like certainty. But every answer is an echo. Every reassurance feels preloaded. And still, she doesn't leave. Not because she doesn't know, but because she knows that knowing would force her to choose between pain and dignity. And in this moment, comfort still wins. That's the tragedy that plays out in plain sight. When someone would rather live in the suspense than step into the clarity. Because clarity ends the dream. Clarity forces decisions. Clarity might mean letting go. And that's the part no one wants to talk about. She says she needs answers, but she already has them. She just doesn't want to name them out loud. Not yet. Because naming them makes them real. And real breaks the illusion. And if she ever does accept the truth, the real question won't be what Daniel loses. It'll be whether she can live with what loving him cost her. If love needs constant performance, what happens when the show ends? Go back to the moment her wig came off. Watch her hands. Watch how fast she scans his face for approval, for permission, for some soft landing that never arrives. And then watch her language shift. not just in that scene, but over the next few episodes. It goes from I feel ugly to I hope he still loves me to I just want the truth. That arc doesn't end in strength. It ends in silence because the show never gives her resolution. There's no clear answer, no clean break, no dramatic exit or explosive reveal, just a slow retreat into performance again, one small compromise at a time. The real ending already happened back in that lobby when she asked him if she looked pretty without the wig, and he didn't even try to lie. And that's why this isn't just a scam story. That word's too easy. Too final. This was something murkier, messier, more common than we like to admit. This was the erosion of self-protection in slow motion. A woman who wanted love so badly, she confused control for care, performance for partnership, and transaction for intimacy. And maybe Daniel had a plan all along. Or maybe he just knew how to stand still while she did all the work. Either way, the result was the same. She gave. He took. And when she finally asked for truth, all he had left to offer was posture. There's only one question worth holding on to now. How does someone treat you when you're no longer convenient? That's where the truth lives. Not in the grand gestures or pretty words or staged parades, but in the moments where you're inconvenient, exposed, flawed. Watch that. That's the real story. Because this isn't the only couple where love starts strong, money gets involved, and performance becomes the price of admission. And next time, the cracks might be even harder to ignore. See you there.